things which you will be comfortable, where you have a certain, if you have a certain budget constraint or not, then you have to think in that terms. How do you kind of incorporate that into it? A lot of times we get that query that क्या accessibility करना बहुत expensive होगा, क्या इस पे होगा? But if you actually see, this is whenever you're doing any project, उसका खाली 3% लगता है to do accessibility. It is only 3% if it is in a conceptual stage. When you retrofit, it suddenly becomes 30 to 40% of the entire project. But in that way, so once I know, like I can sit with you, we can discuss to know what you're doing, and then you can cater to that. And then you tell also, when you are doing your outreach, you be very clear in that outreach in telling people that we aim at making it accessible as of now as a pilot to do for these things. In the later scope, we want to increase accessibility and we'll make sure that other things are also incorporated. तो क्या होगा, सबसे पहले प्रेस आगे पहुंचेगा, अरे आपने इनके लिए किया तो इसके लिए क्यों नहीं किया? That's the thing. So you make it very clear in your outreach that you're keen on doing something for this target group. This is your target audience जिसके लिए आप ये करना चाह रहे हो अभी, और बाकी के लोगों के लिए फिर आप definitely करोगे, ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं सोचना है, but अभी के लिए हम ये first step ले रहे हैं. So like for example, this is the first step that Victoria Memorial is taking of talking about, starting a discussion on accessibility. We can't directly say चलो चलो ये कर लो वो कर लो, that way.
You see, we are talking about accessibility as far as certain buildings are concerned, okay? Take a place like the Victoria Memorial Hall. You see, getting to the building itself is a challenge, okay, for elderly people, for those who have disabilities and so on. So, what would be the challenge? Because the Victoria Memorial is not only the museum, but the gardens also have a lot to offer by way of flora, fauna, a lot of things there are to see. But the elderly or the disabled people probably will not be able to negotiate this huge area of 57 acres of land, you see. So I was just wondering while listening to you, whether what we do during events now as a first step is we offer golf carts, shuttle service from the gate of access to the building or to the place where the event is taking place.
Sure.
Would it be a good idea, like at the airports and things where you have such vehicles to carry elderly people, that we have a hop-on, hop-off service even for the gardens in a particular manner, in a particular route, where they are also told, yeah, this is what you are seeing here and this is what you, where they can hop on and hop off wherever they would like to, whenever they feel that they are not able to negotiate it on their own. This thought just came to me while listening to you.
No, definitely. So for example, like one of the ideal ways of going about this is that the first I'll talk about what would be an issue. The issue would be crowd management. You know, like everybody wanting to use that ki humko bhi leke jao, humko bhi leke jao. So the easier way would be to actually mentioning on your website, on your places, that we have a special route based on your request. So you do say, you tell people, you inform the museum beforehand that these are the number of people coming. We would be requiring this service, and for that it would be provided. So automatically it becomes something which is very structured in a format for people to come in, and then it is mentioned wherever your ticketing is done, wherever it is done, that on your website, on social media, you kind of talk about that this facility is available. I think that is really important, because it's not only the built space, but even the environment around it, the space around it, the landscape around it, that needs to be accessible to them.
Siddhant, thank you so much. You have covered such a lot of ground. I just was wondering that you also work on social inclusivity and other emotional disabilities and all that. And one of the buzzwords now, becoming more and more important in the Indian museum scenario is the inclusive museum. And what, in my limited experience, what we have done in the Victoria Memorial Hall, and I also did this in collaboration with Shayan. We were a team there for 2.5 years. So together we have designed special programs for people with various kinds of challenges. Like we have done musical concerts with autistic children. We have done musical concerts with visually impaired children. We have done programs for specifically senior citizens and people living in senior homes with widows, Alzheimer's patients, sex workers, uh, lesbi gay authors and activists and so on and so forth. Now, what we tend to do, and this is something which sort of vexes me personally, is that these are also things that we do from time to time, and then we photograph and photo document and put them up on our Facebook, and that also becomes a matter of ticking some boxes and you know and feeling good about it. And I, we would just like some suggestions from you about how to address the very serious shortcomings that we museums and other institutions have about social disabilities, and how to address them, and how to make these museums really inclusive in a broad sense.
Sure. So as I said, like my first, my 1 year at the City Palace, I was constantly doing, like for the first 3 months, I was only doing audience research. Audience research was, and when I say first 3 months, it happened in span of 4 5 months. Like 1 month was dedicated for that. So those 3 months, I would just be an invisible viewer of what was happening, what were the things that were needed, what were people looking for, what did they miss, what was the time that one person took to be in that space. And that's how we had small, very like sitting next to a child, ki kya hua, aapko nahi acha laga, maza aaya. First we consider that even when we are doing things with people, kids with people with disability, we think that उन लोग को सबको म्यूजियम आना चाहिए, हम सबके लिए, हम में से भी हमको लगता है ना, अरे नहीं, जो आपके फ्रेंड्स होंगे, कोई होगा नहीं अच्छा लगता म्यूजियम जाना, तो उनमें से भी वो लोग हैं who do not like to do that. So again, it should be made as a choice for them to come in or not. Secondly, when we talk about social access, about how do you open the space up to a community, a lot of us in a lot of different ways, we do, as you said, like a check boxing, like कि मतलब check, एक इनके साथ एक workshop कर लिया, इनके साथ एक ये कर दिया. We do not look at it as a sustainable thing. So sustainability is a key element to it. So right now, which was the Pride month in July, which was going on in UK, British Museum had an entire workshop, an entire series of month-long workshop, which was related to understanding LGBTQ community through the collection of the museum. How do they look at the perspective of LGBTQ through the collection, through the spaces? And that talks about, then they would invite people who came on board with different things. Like, so they had theater people, they had people who were working in social service, they had people who were activists, they had, how do you talk about these things to students in school? So they had school workshops. There are various ways of doing that. So how do you create a cycle of these things? It is nice that if you're doing an event, maybe you could do it under an umbrella name, like you give it a name that under this auspices we'll be doing these kind of workshops on and off, and then automatically it becomes a module of social accessibility. Even if anybody wants to come and contact, like I was reading in the newspaper yesterday over here, because 1st December was World AIDS Day, and in Sonagachi area, there's a lot of things that happened. A lot of people went through the test. A lot of patrons went through AIDS test to break that, whole HIV test, and that it is not something wrong, that it is not something that bad, in various ways in which these things were spoken about, how they had done small skits and plays and all. That happened under a particular umbrella, because that one day, but then I don't know what's happening there after that. It just gets died off over there. So it is great that if you're doing so many events, kind of put it in such an umbrella under a certain thing that person knows if I go and click on that. So for example, if you go and click on the National Museum's gallery, that is on the website, there's a page for persons with disability. If you click on it, it will give you a list of host of options that we've done. The latest thing that we did for them was I was access consultant on the India and the World show which came in. So we created tactile artworks, pathways, braille books, and even social and outreach work to go to schools and do the workshops, and even get schools to the gallery and work with them. So both ways, in that way. So if you create that niche, and we would call that the Anubhuti project, which is again which we do for something called Sahapedia. Under that only then we do different things. So we give a name, like if you just Google Senses at Serendipity Arts Festival, it's an art festival that happens in Goa, and we've coined that term Senses at Serendipity, and we have been their access consultant for past 3 years. So that entire arts festival for 7 days has been made accessible. So be it for dance, drama, theatre, we come on board and we connect people in that way. So अगर किसी को भी खाली उनके accessibility projects के बारे में जानना है, तो it just has to click on Senses and the host of things. Otherwise, if that was not there, it was not that work would not be done, but then it would be scattered everywhere. It would be just seen as one-off projects, but this automatically becomes an authority, that this is what you've done. Like for example, this lecture we did today, we could have done this at any time, but that this day, that importance of doing something under a particular thing gives that importance, gives that. So definitely, I think if those kind of workshops are on, if they're categorized in a certain manner, that it is made accessible to you in public on your website, that like today, if an organization who's doing Nukkad Natak, like street plays, and they want to come and do something, oh, you have such a brilliant crowd over here, right? If somebody wants to do any awareness campaign, awareness drive, imagine having a flash mob in the museum. It would be brilliant to like just gather the attention of people, talk about something. You had World AIDS Day, these days are coming. So, for example, January is like World Braille Month because it's Louis Braille's birthday. So we are launching different Braille books and doing different things. So then you do it under a certain thing which kind of gives it a push and impetus. I think that way, if you just kind of, sometimes it's only about packaging the idea in a way.
Any other questions or comments? No? I think you have been very lucid and so clear that everybody has understood what you were trying to talk about. Yes, you did talk about these particular days which probably give you a better visibility when you do something, and that much accentuated it gets. So even you talked about the World AIDS Day. Last year, not this year, but last year we did a blood donation camp on that particular day. So we have been trying to do certain things centered around these days, and you're absolutely right. One other thing which is doing the rounds while you were talking, I was reminded, which is in the news very much, for which the Indian Museum has taken a lead actually, is to have a room for breastfeeding for mothers. You see, so they may not be challenged, but in a way they are challenged because they don't find a space when they come to visit the museum. Yeah, it's a wonderful idea, and yeah, on Mother's Day, and it's a wonderful initiative that you have taken. And you see now, last week, all over the newspapers, it's created a huge hue and cry because one of the modern malls did not have this facility, and now everybody is waking up to that, and the whole of West Bengal is waking up to that these public spaces should have this facility, which is self-understood. You see. Here we have introduced, this was Shumaya's idea originally, that we introduce a kind of dispensing machine, not a vending machine, but even a dispensing machine for sanitary napkins in the ladies' toilet. So which we did on World Toilet Day, was it? Yeah, or Swachhata Abhiyan, yeah, whatever it was. So these kind of initiatives go a long way in even changing the mindset of the people around us, and that's the way it can probably become very effective. Good. So thank you very much for all this insight. Great. And all of you are invited to the public lecture this afternoon at 4 o'clock in the same venue. But before I say the last one, now I have to have a little private talk with Siddhant, if you'd excuse me. Maja aayi bhi? Okay. So because you started in Gujarati, you should end in Gujarati also. You should go a complete cycle. So here we can use sign language, of course. Now I can use also sign language. Before you go off, there is some provision for outside. Okay. So please join us for a little working lunch. Thank you all of you for. Yeah, you have something to say?
I would like to thank Siddhant because he was superb with his speech, and I've really taken to you with your speech. Thank you very much. I enjoyed every moment of yours.
Go for a little working lunch and hope to see many of you back here in the afternoon for the public lecture.
I've just got some samples of those tactile artworks I'll just put them out so you all can feel free to see them and touch them.